Thank you for joining me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Making its final move. This is Sara. This brought historic rain. Some of the totals in parts of Honduras near 1,000 millimeters of rain or 40 inches of rain, hence all the water rescues in the massive flooding. This has been a catastrophic tropical storm, no doubt. I believe it should be a retired name once we get toward the end of the season and they analyze these things in the off season. Still a lot of heavy rain. This continues to move in. I want to track this as it works into Belize, Guatemala, Mexico, still some of the impacts of Nicaragua south, and an earthquake cluster. If you're watching from Antigua and Barbuda, I want to show you an earthquake cluster in the northeastern Caribbean. So I'll have that in a moment. But of course, watching this in these brighter colors here, those are higher cloud tops. That means still a lot of tropical rain that is coming down. Now today, it makes its final landfall in Belize. It is just about moving, the center of this, just about moving into Belize right now, near Belize City, over toward Ladyville. Then it will work its way right across parts of Guatemala into Mexico and rapidly weaken, but still a lot of rain eventually, as expected. And this has been right on track over the last several videos. A front will push by over toward parts of the United States and grab some of the leftover moisture. It is not going to regenerate or reform in the Gulf of Mexico. I'll show you the wider view in the Gulf of Mexico in just a moment. But this is some of the additional rain on top of what we already had. And you can see parts of Belize back toward northern sections of Guatemala. This black shading in here, an additional 150 millimeters of rain or 6 inches of rain, additional flooding. Some of us will do okay, just kind of depends on these bands of rain. As it weakens, you get these dry slots that move in. So some of us okay, others still getting dumped down. Let me know in the comments your location and what you have or don't have as we go throughout the day as we continue to build this weather community. Bigger picture, best chance of rain as expected, Cozumel south. Could be some isolated areas of flooding where we'll have some spots of 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain right here. And then you see as we work our way back toward Honduras, finally the rain is starting to kind of cut off. Still some additional rain today in some spots, but we're going to see this making its move finally today. Now, parts of Nicaragua, we're going to see the rain picking up as we go throughout the day, watching that mudslide threat. This is still a life-threatening situation. This is just unbelievable how slow this has been. So the center later today, this is 4 in the afternoon, moving in near Belize City, but we still have that flow around it. And then as this kind of flow from the north hits the higher terrain parts of Guatemala and Nicaragua, that enhances the rain and gives us the bigger threat of the life-threatening mudslides in some spots. But as we work our way into tomorrow morning, the rain really starts to diminish. There'll still be some scattered areas of rain tomorrow, but nothing like we've had over the last few days. So this is tomorrow, and you see how the rain just diminishes. This area as it works over land falls apart. It loses its tropical characteristics. I'm going to zoom out across the Caribbean for us in just a moment, but the leftovers of this just kind of drift up to the north. Here's that big front rolling through parts of Oklahoma and Texas, and you see that front as it moves by kind of feeds in some of this moisture as it crosses the Gulf of Mexico. It kind of taps into some of that moisture there. This is on Tuesday. No additional tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico, just that front passing by. You see by the time we get into Wednesday, sweeps through Florida, Bahamas, back into Cuba. That is not tropical in nature. That is a front. Behind it, a big shot of some chilly air. Some of the coolest weather, or the coolest weather of the season, is moving in back toward parts of the southeast U.S. and parts of the Bahamas, even trying to creep down toward Cuba. Now, this is that map that I mentioned a lot of folks have been showing out there, and it always looks scarier than it is. These squiggly lines, once this is up here, so you may still see this today. That's why I wanted to show you it, because I know you're smart enough to understand. This is not a hurricane or tropical storm doing something like this. All these squiggly lines are their computer models. They're saying, hey, little of the leftover moisture, not a name system, is just going to get picked up into a front and shoot off to the east. That's all this is saying. These lines don't talk about strength. There's no real strength in here as far as any tropical system is concerned. The front itself could bring some severe weather, but this is not going to regenerate in the Gulf. And here's why. Not only is there a lot of wind shear, those are winds above our heads that knock off the developing tops of thunderstorms, but the water temperatures have cooled now about 26 degrees Celsius, 79 degrees Fahrenheit in parts of the Gulf of Mexico. Once you're below 80 degrees Fahrenheit, that is not conducive for tropical development or to sustain a tropical system. Still warm waters. We work our way into the Caribbean. There's some signs that something could try to maybe spin up late this month. Early December, just down here in the southern and western Caribbean. Again, I'm not seeing huge signs of that, but the models are hinting out of that. That makes sense. Sometimes you could get a pocket of rain. We'll see if there's some strange kind of a late season or even off-season tropical storm across the Caribbean. I'll monitor that. Let's put that on the back burner. But again, Sara making its final move into Belize, working across. That will diminish as we work into tomorrow very quickly, and it will no longer be a named system. It will no longer be tropical. Just 3 names left on the season, or on the list for the season: Tony, Valerie, and William. End of the season's end of November. Even if there is that system that, say, a system tries to form in December, it still gets one of these names from this calendar year. Now, the earthquake situation, if you've been in Antigua and Barbuda, there's been some rocking and rolling over the last few days. That is an earthquake cluster. We have the fault lines that run right through here. Here's the Puerto Rico Trench. So Anguilla, back through Antigua, Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Barts, you may have felt some shaking, especially in Antigua and Barbuda. Now, these earthquakes have generally been about 4.8 in magnitude or less. In an earthquake cluster, usually you don't have a giant one, but for a couple weeks, we could have some decent earthquakes. So the earthquake cluster has been ongoing. It could last a little longer. Know that I'm monitoring that, of course, as we go forward. And a lot of these earthquakes have been on the shallower side. Those would be earthquakes of 0 to 70 kilometers down, or 0 to 40 miles down. Shallower ones you're more likely to feel. We're more likely to feel those, and that's why we have been feeling those earthquakes. Now, let me show you this. Here's Tropical Storm Sara working in today, and still, here's El Salvador. And get back through Nicaragua, Costa Rica, that enhancement coming off of Guatemala. El Salvador, should have mentioned earlier as well, also along with Nicaragua still, and Guatemala, that mudslide threat. Costa Rica, Panama, still watching out for some areas of rain, especially in Costa Rica. But Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, just on the south side of this flow right there, an enhancement of some rain and that chance of mudslides. Now, as we work our way across the Caribbean, there's that flow, that moisture we've been watching. There's that tail end of a front right there. So Barbados, it has been active. I mentioned that yesterday. We're going to have some of that rain that is nearby. There's that old front, and some of that moisture just kind of getting pulled into that for us in the Eastern Caribbean. It's going to be unsettled, especially Barbados, but some of that rain may even try to creep back toward St. Lucia. So I'll be watching that. You see, as we work forward, even into Tuesday, there's some of that rain that'll be nearby Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, long term, I mentioned later this month, I'm going to be watching this area right in here to see if we have any signs of development late November, early December. Again, no big signs of that, but that is kind of the next spot. I like to let you know everything I'm thinking, that behind the scenes that I'm watching, some of the models hinting at least a big pocket of rain somewhere in here, eventually developing in about a week or so. So we'll get into that more in further videos. But we have this front rolling through the Gulf of Mexico over the next 2 days. That means very elevated seas. Here's meters, here's feet on the right-hand side of your screen. Of course, the dangerous seas right near parts of Mexico, back toward Belize and Honduras, with Sara moving in, and watching the Atlantic waters. Everything is so elevated this time of year with those big fronts moving by. But you see tomorrow in the Gulf of Mexico, the elevated seas. This is not because Sara is redeveloping. This is really because of that front that is going to be sweeping across, and in that, there could be some severe storms. But those rough seas right across the Gulf, which is also common this time of year with a series of fronts that will be working by as we get deep into the autumn season. Now, speaking of those fronts, a big one, a big spin up toward Newfoundland, over toward parts of Prince Edward Island. We got another little front moving back toward Quebec, over toward the Great Lakes. Bermuda, we're on the edge of these, but all of this moisture really feeding up to the north. So it's going to stay very unsettled near New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland. Even some coastal flooding will be a possibility. That strong onshore flow, watching that over toward the Avalon Peninsula. And you see, this is by Tuesday, still watching that spin that will be around, and then another system that will be working in from the west. Now, as far as the rain goes, Cuba, Bahamas, it has been so pleasant. Even Haiti and the Dominican Republic, the rain totals have cut off. Cayman Islands, heaviest weather has been moving off toward the west. Same thing in Jamaica. Jamaica, we had some rain, of course, yesterday in some spots. Some of us didn't, maybe some overcast conditions. We had some last night as well and early this morning. I was going back and forth with you in the comments. So let me know in Jamaica, but overall the next few days, rain chance trending down. Now we swing over here. This is where we're going to see some scattered areas of rain. Watching the Eastern Caribbean will kind of shift our focus here. A little bit spotty, British, U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Could get a few showers that could give us 50 millimeters of rain or 20 inches of rain, maybe St. Kitts and Nevis. But we swing to the south, watching Barbados, and you see how we're just right on the edge of it. So Barbados, over the next few days, we could get some totals over 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain. But if this just creeps a smidge off to the west, we'll get some higher totals as well. Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent the Grenadines, and Grenada. Trinidad and Tobago, we are going to see some scattered areas of rain. I'll be watching higher totals that are over the water, but we could have some isolated flooding the next few days. For the upcoming week across Trinidad, I got you covered. I'll be watching that. It's not all day rain, but if we get repeat areas of rain, Trinidad and Tobago, that means we could get some of that isolated flooding where we get some of those totals of 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain. Even northern Guyana and Venezuela, Suriname, not a whole lot. Here are those totals. Here's El Salvador, back toward western sections of Nicaragua and Guatemala. I mentioned as Sara moves in, you get that flow around it, just enhancing some of the rain, where some of the totals could be 150 millimeters of rain or 6 inches of some rain. Mexico City north, not a lot. The rain in Texas, that is courtesy the next front that is moving by this week, and that'll bring in some of the colder weather. So for us in Jamaica, you see how that rain chance is trending down. We do that again over toward the Cayman Islands. We'll have about a 40% chance, mainly Grand Cayman today, get toward Little Cayman and Brac. Generally the dry conditions, pretty good week ahead, but Trinidad and Tobago, unsettled, not 100% chance of rain, but scattered areas of rain will be possible. And then we get back toward Barbados. Please keep me posted through the day. I mentioned this in yesterday's video, today's video. We have areas of rain nearby. I'll be watching that throughout the day. I'll be going back and forth with you in the comments. That rain chance is on the higher side, and you see how we're on the edge of that. In St. Lucia, a 60% chance today and a 50% chance tomorrow, and keeping that 50% chance of unsettled weather around Grenada right into the upcoming week. And we do that as well as we get back toward St. Vincent the Grenadines. Rain chance 60% today and a 50% chance for tomorrow. Rain chance about 50% in Martinique. Heaviest weather just off into the Atlantic waters to the east. Dominica, rain chance could be around 60% for tomorrow. So heads up, a little bit active as we get into the upcoming week across Dominica, and we get back through Guadeloupe. 50 to 60% chance of rain over the next 3 days. Antigua, Barbuda, monitoring that earthquake cluster. 40 to 50% chance of rain, 50% chance of some rain, St. Kitts and Nevis in Montserrat, a 60% chance for today in Anguilla. There's an old front, kind of the tail end of a front around, that could give us a few of those scattered showers over towards St. Bart's. 50% chance the next couple of days, St. Martin, Saba, and Statia. 40% chance today in Puerto Rico, a 30% chance tomorrow. The rain chance is not too high as we get into the upcoming week, and we see that trending down as well. U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Rain chance on the very minimal side, 10, maybe 20% chance. The Bahamas, back through the Turks and Caicos the next 3 days. The Dominican Republic, our rain chance has gone down. It has gone down as well across Haiti. Rain chance only 10% for tomorrow. Watching, of course, what's happening later in the day. The rain chance starts to drop off in Belize. Watching Sara moving in. Again, some of us getting dumped on. That's why it's tricky. Some with the drier air moving in and with it weakening, some of us getting dumped on. Others, not a whole lot. So I'll be watching those comments. Rain chance in Aruba today, we have about a 30% chance. We had flooding a couple days ago. 30% chance Curacao and Bonaire. In Guyana, the best chance of rain would be our northern sections, and the rain chance very low the next few days across Suriname. Very low as well in Cuba. Overall, a lot of sunshine. Watching out for the areas of flooding. Costa Rica, Panama, more so Costa Rica, a slightly higher chance of rain than Panama. Nicaragua, watching western sections for that mudslide threat. Honduras, of course, seeing things starting to improve, but the rivers will not. The rivers are still so very high, so very dangerous. It is just, it's been a catastrophic system with the amount of flooding. I mentioned that right at the beginning of the video. Then Guatemala and El Salvador, the mudslide threat will continue for another day. Mexico City, we're mainly on the dry side. Rain chance scattered about across the Yucatan Peninsula. I covered that with some of the rain totals. Merida, Campeche, some scattered showers will be possible. Northern Colombia, rain chance 30%, 30 to 40% chance across northern Venezuela. And in Bermuda, heaviest weather is to the north. That's been lifting up toward the Atlantic region of Canada. So Sara finally starts to move. It will fall apart as it moves into Belize. I'll be watching the southern Caribbean for any signs of development over the next week or two. That's kind of the next spot to watch, and tracking that earthquake cluster in the northeastern Caribbean. So I'll go through those comments with you throughout the day. I hope you're doing well, and I'll monitor this heavy rain that still continues in parts of Central America. Be safe if you're dealing with what is left of Sara. Have a good rest of your day.